Here's an example of a drawing done in perspective. And again, you can see this is meant to give a two-dimensional picture some depth. And the idea is things that are closer appear larger, things that are smaller or farther away appear smaller. And you can see how the sidewalk, for example, gets narrower and narrower the farther it goes off into the distance. So this is a way of drawing in 3D when you've only got a two-dimensional program. So we're going to draw something like this. And if you start with your file here, you will see we start with this. Now the blue line, that's called our horizon. So think sky is up here, ground is down here, horizon is the dividing line between the two. I'm going to start with these two lines right here. So you've already got these lines. We're going to start building from these lines. I'll start with drawing a line. And I'm going to go down here. I'm going to make sure my endpoint snap is on. Draw a vertical line down about 1. And I'm going to draw the other end of the line snapping to this vanishing point on the other side. And press Enter. So this is going to be the curb. So I'll repeat my line. There to there. And again, press Enter. By the way, if you're wondering where these menus are coming from, I am pressing the right mouse button. And that way I don't have to actually take my hand off the mouse. Same thing if I want to repeat a line, I can press the right mouse button, and there's my command, repeat line. All right, so there's my curb. And you can see right there, that's from where the sidewalk transitions to the street, that's a little vertical drop. If that only looks like a couple of triangles, that's okay. Sometimes it takes a while before the 3D effect kind of kicks in. I'm going to draw the sidewalk here, starting from this vanishing point to about here. I'm going to use my cursor as kind of a little spacer here. The bottom of my cursor can be the width, and right to there. I didn't have to worry, and then again, press Enter. Didn't have to worry about getting that exactly above that point. It's not really critical. You can see in the reference picture, the points are offset a little bit. All right, so this now is my sidewalk. For my first building, I'm going to start at this point right here and draw a vertical line about the same distance above the horizon as it is below, and draw a line over to the vanishing point. Now, if you notice, the top of the building does not go that far. That's all right. I want to make sure that the top of the building is drawn in perspective. If you were drawing this on pencil and paper, you would take a ruler, start at this point, line the ruler up with the other end of the point. You'd only draw this far, but it's okay in AutoCAD because we've got our trim tool. My next point, I'm going to start right here, drop it down to there. Okay, so this is the front of my building and the two roof lines. Now, I'm going to draw the vertical walls, so the other walls to the building, or corners of the building. A little bit of a problem here. If I start a line, and I want to draw a line from where my cursor is down to the bottom. Now, you notice something's popping up there. That's the endpoint object snap. And if I click right there, then my line will automatically snap to that endpoint. I'm going to press Escape to cancel that. If I start over here, it will snap to the other endpoint. Now, of course, if you've got your midpoint object on, it's going to snap to that. So the endpoint object snap will always grab. If you're close to a line, the object snap will activate. Well, what if you don't want to have that activate? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. You can start drawing your line above and go down to here. Or you can turn the object snaps off. So if I go down here and click on this button, it actually turns them off. And you can see I'm hovering near my line and it does not snap. And then I might turn them back on again. So object snaps, sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're a bit of a pain. But just know that how they behave, they're trying to help, but sometimes you don't want their help. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to use my trim tool, and I'm going to cut this piece, and this piece. And then I'm also going to cut that, and there is my first building. Now I'll come back later and do the windows and doors, but I'm going to add another building next to that. So I'll start right here. I'm going to do the same thing. And again, there's that object snap showing up there. I'm just going to drop down a little bit below the line, draw a vertical line. This one's a little shorter. And I'll draw back to here. Notice that all of my lines follow one rule or another. They're either going to a vanishing point or they're vertical. So all your lines have to either start or end at a vanishing point, or they have to be perfectly vertical. All right, so here's my second building, and I'm going to again use my trim tool. Now, you see the roof line goes behind this building, so I'm going to trim that up and that, trim that and that, press enter. And then I can also just erase these lines instead of trimming them. There we go. I'm also going to use the trim tool on this little point right here. You can see there's like a little alleyway. Okay, so that's 2 buildings. So what we want is we want a total of 5 buildings. So I'll just quickly sketch out 5 buildings here. And again, notice how all of my lines, I'm using the vanishing points to create all of my lines. And one more over here. Try to keep all your buildings the same height, roughly. We don't want to have kind of a skyscraper in the middle of a bunch of 2- and 3-story buildings. It looks odd. Oops, didn't want to erase that. Let's just use the trim tool. Okay, so there are our 5 buildings. And erase that or trim that up as well. Okay, there's 5 buildings. Doesn't have to match this exactly, just using this as a reference. Okay, so once we're done with the buildings, the next thing we're going to do is add some detail. So here's a couple little bits of detail you can add on. Like for example, you notice on the building right next to this, there is a little kind of a low brick wall at the base. So I'm going to use my vanishing point lines to add that in. Okay, so there is a little low brick wall. You can do the same thing on the top if you want kind of a top piece of trim. Now, how about windows? Well, the windows are a lot faster actually. So I'm going to want to see 4 windows on every wall facing a street. So 4 windows there, 4, 4, 4, 4. Here's a quick way of doing windows. I'm going to start from my vanishing point right here. There's the tops of the top row of windows. I'm going to go down. There's the bottoms of the top row of windows. I'm going to go back. I'm going to use my smart tracking here to make sure those lines line up. There's the top of the bottom rows of windows, and there's the bottom. Now I'm going to draw some vertical lines here. Repeat those lines. Now there is a rule in drawing in perspective as to how to make things the same width. I'm not going to bother with that one. I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, so now we just need to trim up all the bits we don't want. And here's a neat little part. I'm just going to click on trim right here. And I'm just going to go through, I'm holding down my mouse button, and I'm just going along and tracing over all of the lines I want to get rid of. Just keep holding down my mouse button, and when I let go, there we go, trimmed up everything I didn't want. So there's 4 windows right there. Same thing with erase. Erase that too. Okay, so you can add windows here, 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 and here. Now, one other thing, we're going to need doors on all of our. So the doors are pretty easy to do. Again, start here, vertical, repeat. Don't want to snap to that end point there. And again, trim that up. And there's a door. Now, I can get a little fancier with the door. If you notice, I can make it inset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim up this piece right here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is draw a line from here to this corner right here. Okay, well now it looks like I've got a tunnel going through, and that's a bit much. Okay, so I'm going to draw in the next part. Here's the bottom of the door. So the bottom of the door is drawn the same way as my my wall, where the wall meets the sidewalk, except it's in a little bit, right about to here. And I'm going to trim that up, that. And the last thing I need before I clean those up is a vertical line from here up to here. So now you can see it kind of looks like I've got a little inset door there. And I can go ahead, maybe just draw in a vertical line there, so make it look like kind of a little sliding door. Okay. So there's a starting point. So again, we should have 5 buildings, 4 windows on each wall facing a street.